Hello and welcome to the Classic Hollywood Movie You Should Know. I'm Nate Washburn. This week the movie is from 1932, Scarface, starring Paul Muni, George Raft, Anne Vorschak, Karen Morley, directed by Howard Hawks and produced by Howard Hughes. Now, before I get into the whole story, I do want to point out actress Anne Vorschak. Her last name is spelled D-V-O-R-A-K. Typically people with that last name pronounce it Dvorak. I looked it up. She is on the record as saying that she pronounced it Vorschak, so I'm going to go with her pronunciation. Now, Scarface, it tells the story of Tony Camonte, played by Paul Muni. He is just this unhinged gangster who is shameless in his use of violence and murder to rise through the ranks of the Chicago underworld during Prohibition. Now, what makes this so cool is that a lot of these story elements are based on Al Capone, the real-life gangster. He had a scar on his face. He was nicknamed Scarface, although you wouldn't call him that. He did not like that nickname. A lot of the elements of Tony Camonte's rise, with the way that he kills his former boss, Castillo, that's Al Capone killed his former boss, Big Jim Colosimo. Camonte goes after the North Side gang in Chicago, and Al Capone really did that. There's even a recreation of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre in which Capone sent his lieutenants dressed as cops, and they just massacred, they murdered 7 members of rival gang leader Bugs Moran's gang. And you have to give it up to the cast in this film. This cast is tremendous. Paul Muni as Camonte, he is terrifying, he is engaging, he is dynamic, he's like charming in elements, but he's like unhinged, that you know that he could do anything at any point in this film. It's a wild and brilliant performance. Paul Muni is one of those great actors who, he did a lot of theater, he did a lot of like prestige stories during his career. And you know, if you haven't seen Paul Muni, you're missing out. He's really a great actor. And George Raft is so memorable as Ronaldo, the coin flipping right-hand man. He becomes a superstar after this. He becomes a top-level star in gangster movies and other movies for Warner Brothers. But what really got me in this is the actresses Karen Morley as Poppy and Anne Vorschak as Cheska. As Tony gets more and more power, he's trying to get Poppy, who's his boss's girlfriend, to come with him, basically. And the way that Karen Morley plays Poppy, you know, it's this sort of roller coaster of she doesn't like Tony, she's disgusted by him, but as his star rises, she's really attracted to power. And you watch her as she sort of falls for Tony, and the scene towards the end when she calls him is just, it's almost heartbreaking, even though you know that she's pretty much an awful character and that Tony's evil. You kind of want him to die, but there's a phone call scene that's just, it's riveting. And then Anne Vorschak as Cheska, she's Tony's sister, and he is overprotective of her to the point of like out and out creepiness. It is like weird how overprotective he is, and the way that he handles Cheska when she's talking to other men, and like when she starts a flirtation and has a relationship with Ronaldo. Tony just loses it. And then the finale at the climax when they come together, reunite, it was very strange, very creepy, but really well done and sort of fit the story very, very well. I also want to mention in a smaller role, that's Boris Karloff. He plays Tom Gaffney. He's a rival gangster who Camonte has killed. That's Karloff, of course, known as being the monster in the movie Frankenstein. A couple little things about this one. So it was produced by Howard Hughes, who very famously was one of the richest men in America. His life was dramatized in the movie The Aviator by Martin Scorsese. Also, this movie, Scarface, 1932, was remade in 1983 by Brian De Palma with Al Pacino as Tony Montana. There are a lot of different elements, of course. I mean, the Pacino one is set in Miami. It's the drug trade, all of that, as opposed to Chicago during Prohibition. But the relationships in the 1932 film and the 1983 film and the rise through the ranks, they're very parallel. Tony works for his boss, Frank. He's into Frank's girlfriend, Elvira. That's the whole Tony and Poppy relationship in the 1932 film. Manny is Tony's right-hand man. That's Ronaldo. In 1932, Manny has a relationship with Gina, Tony's sister. Tony's weirdly overprotective of his sister. All of this stuff is from the 1932 film. And the 1932 version runs an hour and a half, whereas the Brian De Palma film runs almost 3 hours. So I'd argue for the 1932 Scarface. So if you're a fan of gangster movies, if you've seen Al Pacino as Tony Montana, give a watch to 1932's Scarface. It is really gripping, it's engaging. Paul Muni is fantastic as Tony Camonte, and it's this week's classic Hollywood movie you should know. I'm Nate Washburn. Keep watching.